Welcome back to another episode of Believe in TCU. I'm Zion Trammell here with my co-host Seth Dowdle. The basketball marathon continues as we will recap TCU women's basketball's 62-59 win in overtime over Washington into the late hours on Sunday night. If we had recorded this episode right after, I think it probably would have been done by like 1 a.m.
And that's not happening, guys. I'm sorry.
It's on maybe on a Friday or Saturday.
Not on a Sunday night.
You can not on a Sunday night, but shout out to the TCU fans. They really showed out for this game. It was rocking. Like I could not believe what I was watching, seeing how much of a crowd showed up and they were getting really into it. It was really cool to see Fort Worth and Schollmeyer after dark, as we said yesterday.
Yeah, and it was a good game, kind of nip and tuck there for a little while for TCU. But this is a team that's shown that it's pretty resilient and was able to come back after a pretty crappy second quarter, bounce back in the second half, and then ultimately get it done in the extra period to move on to the Sweet 16 for the second consecutive season. Mark Campbell's been here 3 years, gone to the second weekend 2 times. That is a heck of a job, especially after TCU finished last in the Big 12 the year before he got here and was in pretty dire straits, to say the least. And in his first year here, they were hosting tryouts in like February. So heck of a job to be here. I don't want to lose sight of that. This is just such an extraordinary turnaround. I know that it's become kind of the norm. They've won 43 consecutive home games or whatever it is now, but let's not forget like where we came from, guys. This is extraordinary.
It's one of the more impressive turnarounds that we've seen in college sports and in basketball, to be able to get this team to become a perennial contender, to get the top players in the transfer portal to buy into Mark Campbell's plan and what he wants to do here in Fort Worth is very impressive. But all of that was looking at a potential loss and an elimination in the second round. I mean, there was hats off really to Washington. They played a really good game, especially in that first half. They made TCU uncomfortable, and there was a moment in the third quarter where I think things changed for the better for TCU, but internally I thought it could have gone even worse. There was a foul called on Olivia Miles, and prior to that, there was multiple stoppages going on. The game was just moving really slow in the third quarter. And it seemed like that's exactly what Washington wanted. They wanted to slow this game down, get TCU out of rhythm. Foul called on Olivia Miles, and she was pretty agitated, super annoyed, and it wasn't really the best call. And I thought, this could be unraveling for TCU. But she locked in and figured it out. Frogs had a really good third quarter. He evened things up in the fourth and then took things over in overtime. And I felt like that was a really big turning point. And a lot of credit goes to Olivia Miles because she wasn't having the best game. And the fact that she rallied the troops and got this team to a win is pretty impressive.
Wasn't having the best game, finishes with a triple-double.
It's crazy. I think she had like 4 points at halftime. And she ended with
18, 10, and 10.
Yeah.
No, wait, not triple-double, double-double. I'm sorry.
Almost 18, 10, and 8.
18, 10, and 8. My bad.
It was close, though.
Heck of a job from this team to bounce back. Obviously, was not their best effort. And you can look back at like out of the past 3 games, 2 of them have not resulted in fantastic efforts. One in a loss, one in a win. Obviously, all that matters is if you're up at the end of the game when the clock hits 0, then everything's okay. But I'm going to choose to view this optimistically right now here on Monday at 10:07 a.m. Like, hey, you won, you stay alive. Sure, we can maybe talk about later what this means moving forward for TCU in the Sweet 16, but heck, their opponent isn't even set in stone yet. So it's not even like we can forecast what's going to happen there. I think for now, Frog fans be thrilled that this team has once again made it to the second weekend, and we get to keep talking about them. And this journey continues on for at least one more game, hopefully 4 more.
It gives us they live to see another day, and it gives us more chances to talk about this team. Seth, you talked about before the tournament a player that could be an X factor, and I got to give you your props here. You said Taylor Bigby needs to be able to hit some shots, and she has done that in a massive way for TCU in both games. We kind of glossed over an 86-40 win over UC San Diego because that was kind of expected. You mentioned the other day that UC San Diego was came into the game down 30 points or something like that.
They
They
were.
were,
They do. They were. TCU was essentially spotted 30.
yeah. Olivia Miles did have a triple double at 12 points, 16 rebounds, 14 assists. But Bigby, 27 points, shot 7 of 9 from 3, was unconscious from beyond the arc, and was just as impressive in this win on Sunday night. 15 points, 3 of 8 from deep, had 4 rebounds as well, hit a huge 3 in overtime, was a big reason why TCU won this game. So, Seth, giving you your props here. That was a great
Listen,
call.
my ball knowledge has come into question in recent days by listeners of this
It
pod and those
has.
outside of it. Yes, do you know how to break a 1-2-2 press, Zion? Anyway, inside joke. But I feel quite proud of myself. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. And listen, it wasn't the most like galaxy brain take. Hey, one of the shooters on the team has to make shots when if TCU wants to win the basketball game. That's not the most, anyone could have come up with that. But it is something that I think TCU needed, because if she were to go cold, then that's a big chunk of production that needs to be picked up by someone else. And we saw in these last 2 games, especially last night against Washington, that those 15 points that she contributed, TCU needed every single one of them. And so, heck of a job by her these past couple, I'd say this entire season, coming up huge when maybe she wasn't expected to be someone that was going to be thrust into this spotlight. Maddie Shear was kind of going to be the player that was going to hit the shots and be the 3-point shooter for TCU. She's not available. In comes Taylor Bigby, who's been a role player for her entire career at TCU, and all of a sudden she's the 3rd best scorer on the team. On some nights, the best scorer.
It's really impressive, and it's great that she stayed with Mark Campbell, stayed with TCU, bought into the culture. The only other person to hit a 3 was Marta Suarez, and again, that's where you do miss Maddie Shear or an Aaliyah Roberson that can knock down the 3-pointer when you need it, because TCU just did not have it. And so that's where Bigby plays a huge part. And look, they don't win this game without her. So hats off to her. Really impressed with the way that the Frogs played down the stretch, and especially in overtime, kind of taking control of this game. Again, we've talked about it a couple times already. Olivia Miles kind of hitting that extra gear. She had an and one to put TCU up by 7. Credit to Savia Sellers of Washington. She hit a crazy step back 3 in the 4th quarter, I think, to put the Huskies up by 6, and things were not looking really good at that point. She hit some big shots in overtime. She did a really good job, and I again want to give credit to Washington, because they gave TCU a much larger of a scare than I ever anticipated. It was the fewest points that TCU had scored in a half at home this season. Things really worked out, but I think it just was only a matter of time before TCU started to figure things out and look like the team that they've been all season long. I just couldn't imagine them being able to hold TCU down the entire game, and eventually the Frogs broke through.
Yeah, obviously, TCU was down by 7 in the 4th quarter at one point, so that wasn't great. But you're right. At one point, and like right whenever they went down by 7, TCU goes on a big run, sparked by who else but a couple of big time Olivia Miles baskets. And like, you're only going to be able to contain that scoring threat for so long before she just goes Super Saiyan or whatever. And so props to TCU for bouncing back like that, but also props to Washington for putting TCU in a spot where they really could afford little margin for error. And they executed down the stretch, and that's awesome. Of course, if they were to play, in Iowa in the next round, heck, even if Virginia were to get by Iowa too, you can't afford to have a first half like TCU just did. uh, because Iowa's better than Washington, and you're just not going to be able to get, and you're not going to have the home support that you did in this one, where you have 8,000 people at your back. Sure, you'll have some TCU fans there, but you're not going to have that mountain, that army to be able to will you to a victory. So you're going to need to have a better first half. It's particularly their first quarter was fine. It was the second quarter that was the disaster. But yeah, I'm not trying to talk too much about the next game, but because again, we don't even know who they're playing. We'll find out. I think Iowa and Virginia play at 1 Central today. Probably by the time you're listening to this, that game's we already know who TCU's playing, or at least that game's well underway. But either way, TCU's going to be there, and it's because of that phenomenal effort in the second half, particularly in those final 10-ish minutes of the game, fourth quarter and overtime included.
There's another player I do want to talk about, and that's Clara Silva, who had 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks. She was phenomenal for TCU. The growth that she's had this season, the sophomore has really developed into a quality big for TCU. Her footwork around the rim to be able to score has improved drastically. She's gotten better in the pick and roll. She's gotten better at putting herself in the best position off that pick and roll with Olivia Miles. The Huskies had a pretty small lineup. I think they ran 3 to 4 guards most of the time. So the advantage was going to mainly be Marta Suarez in the post, being able to use her size and score. But she got into foul trouble. She picked up 2 fouls on back-to-back plays, and somehow she didn't foul out because she had 4 fouls with like 2 minutes left in the third quarter. I don't know how she did it because she played most of the rest of the game, but she stayed in it. But they went to Clara Silva a lot more, and she was able to come up big for TCU. Again, 16 points was the second leading score. She's developed a lot and was really happy to see the effort she had. Had a big block at the end of the fourth quarter that ultimately resulted in a basket, but hats off to her. She had a tremendous game.
Yeah, and you're going to need those types of effort, because listen, there's been at least one player on TCU these last couple of games where you're like, okay, it's either Suarez is not having a good night, heck, maybe even Clara Silva, maybe Big B's not making the shots, Miles is having an off night, someone else needs to step up. And Donovan Hunter really has not had that scoring production that she had last season either. So to have someone like that also come up in that big moment was nice for TCU. I don't know. Just I'm happy that TCU was able to win this game on the macro level, and I'm looking forward to what's next. I'm sad that this is the last game they'll play at Schollmeyer though this season. This group of players, because this is kind of the end of the Mark Campbell OG squad. Like Hunter and Big B. Like they're all going to be gone. And obviously, Miles is done. So this is like, it's going to be weird to see a bunch of different players next year in the Schollmeyer.
It is kind of an end of an era. I think it's going to be, it's definitely going to be a new look team. You hope that a lot of these players will stick around. I think Hunter might be a junior. I think
you might be right about that.
I'm not entirely sure, but other than that, there's going to be a lot of change, which we'll talk about once the season ends. But it has been an impressive run at home, and I'll probably go out on a limb and say this is not going to continue for an undefeated regular season next year. It might, you never know, but it's definitely going to be hard to sustain. Regardless, it's been a tremendous run at home at Schollmeyer Arena. To be able to go into play in front of your home fans and deliver them a win each and every time is remarkable. But now they'll head to Sacramento, and again, they'll await the winner of Iowa and Virginia. I'm going to assume Iowa wins this game, and TCU is going to have their work cut out for them. They're not, this Iowa team, assuming they win, is not the same, even close to the same as far as Washington when it comes to size. They have multiple players that are 6'4", 6'5", Their leading scorer, Ava Hayden, is a 6'4" center, and she averages 17 points per game and 7 rebounds and a block. So it's going to be tough sledding for TCU moving forward, regardless of who they play as they get to the Sweet 16. And you hope that they have another run in them and they can go out and get a win in the Sweet 16 and advance to the Elite Eight. But it's not going to be easy by any means.
No, absolutely not. It is kind of poetic in a way that TCU got to the Sweet 16 last year and played Notre Dame, and they beat Olivia Miles. And now Olivia Miles is here playing in the Sweet 16 for TCU. I find that somewhat the irony of it all has not gone over my head this whole season that TCU eliminated Olivia Miles and she pulled the if you can't beat them, join them. And hopefully, for her, she wants to get to the Elite Eight this time.
We talked about that possibility when she hit the transfer, or when it said that she's going to not head into the draft and she's going to go in the transfer portal. We kind of said, like, jokingly, like, hey, TCU. And it actually happened. And so, hey, Notre Dame is taking on Ohio State today as a 6 seed. So they also could be in the Sweet 16 as well. But yeah, it's a really good field this year, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's just great that TCU's in these conversations, and it's unfortunate the men couldn't do it, but I think I think the future of TCU basketball, and I know this is a little off topic, is in really good hands. There are a lot of talented players and talented coaches in both programs. And you got to feel like pretty soon there's going to be that breakthrough for the men's team, like the women's team has had. Maybe not to the scale of a national contender, but at least getting into the second weekend.
Yeah, and you hope that that's sooner rather than later. For both teams, you want that breakthrough. For the women, right, you already got it in a way. Like you made the Elite Eight last year. Now you're looking for that Final Four, and for the men, you're obviously just hoping to get to a Sweet 16. Is this can I be frank? Can I be honest? Can I be frank? Is this the women's team that is going to make it to the Final Four for TCU? If you gun to my head right now, I'd tell you no.
It's tough because the best teams in this in the tournament are like really, really, really good. UConn is a juggernaut. I don't see a scenario where they don't win this whole thing. And that includes a team with UCLA, who has one of the best players in the country. South Carolina with Don Staley is just a machine. And Texas won the SEC tournament, and Maddie Booker's a great player as well. So you're going to have to probably get through Iowa, and then you're going to have to get through South Carolina as well to get there. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but that doesn't necessarily feel like a failure to me. I don't even think a loss in the Sweet 16 would feel like a failure. I think you would to get back to the Elite Eight, but Iowa's certainly a very capable team. I think they're better than what Notre Dame was last year.
Probably. And listen, I think there's a lot of extenuating circumstances that would make it understandable. TCU has 2 players that were going to be big time pieces for them not available. Aaliyah Roberson obviously hasn't played a single minute this season. She was very key to TCU's run of the Elite Eight last year. A fantastic scorer off the bench and perhaps even in the starting lineup at times. And then Maddie Shear was coming back from an injury that had set her on the bench for the entire season, and she hasn't been available either. And so those are 2 depth pieces that you don't have, and that shortens the lineup. Like we saw TCU last year when they dealt with some injuries, and then bang, here they are, kind of once again in the same spot where they have like a 3-headed monster. On some nights, a 2-headed monster, and if you can shut them down, it's kind of game over. So we'll see. Obviously, the talent, I think, hasn't been there for teams to do that so far, but getting to the point where it might be there.
It's going to get real, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. I'm just super, super proud of this team, and the way they played. Super proud of the men's team as well. Again, we talked about it. If you want to go listen to our recap of the Duke game, it was a tremendous year for them as well. So it's it's going to be really, really tough sledding, but I'm super excited. Any final thoughts here for TC women's basketball from this opening weekend in the tournament?
No, overall, fun weekend of basketball for the Frogs. Obviously, you would have liked the men to, uh, break through and beat Duke. That was always going to be a tough ask. And for the women, you got a close game as well as a blowout. So I think you take that, and you won both of them. So you now head into the second weekend hoping for more success, and for selfishly more stuff to talk about for us, because we really don't want to talk about the baseball team. I don't know if anyone's seen what's going on over there, but we don't want to talk about it.
Baseball, that's happening. I didn't know that. Man, rough weekend for the Frogs. I think they lost. What was the score yesterday? Like 6-0, something like
Yeah,
that.
something bad.
It was not pretty, but we'll have time for baseball at some point. But right now the focus is on basketball in March, and it's a great time. We're cranking out episodes. We're really enjoying talking about TCU athletics. You can subscribe to our YouTube page or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, all at Believe in TCU. So for Seth Dowdle, I'm Zion Trammell. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, go Frogs.